Respected dignitaries, respected ISA office bearers, and my fellow anesthesia colleagues, my presentation is titled as Strategic SIP, Simple and Successful. I am very much sure that most of my anesthesia colleagues do have basic understanding about the SIP management. Not only that, many of them may be having an ongoing or continuing SIP. But the purpose of the presentation today is to provide you with an advanced understanding about SIP management. I do write on my blog about personal finance. The blog is titled as rkhgajjar.wordpress.com. I have no advisory or business or commercial or professional interests involved with this blog. It is totally free to me and totally free to you as well. SIP is a method of investment in a systematic way. It is a vehicle to reach the destination of a particular personal financial goal. It itself is not a mutual fund scheme. It simply is a mode or medium of investment. There can be a non-systematic investment also, which is also called as lump sum investments, in which one invests as per one's whims and fancies. But systematic investment has sets of rules. The amount is fixed, the date is fixed, and the asset class is also fixed. Strategic SIP is a SIP with strategy. It is a step forward in the management of the SIP in the journey of the wealth creation. The strategy rule is 7-6-5-4-3-2-1-0 rule. Each number, each digit has significance and relevance. I'll explain the same in the following slides. What is SIP and why it is necessary is not the subject matter today, but how it is to be executed is the subject matter today. I will not answer what is SIP, why it is necessary, but I'll explain how it is to be done so as to make it simple and successful. Systematic investment planning is better investment planning because it eliminates the impulsive actions. It becomes best when it is combined with a strategy, that is strategic SIP. 7 stands SIP for 7 years duration. Like pregnancy means 9 months. The reason is 7 years is a good enough time to experience the bull and the bear phases in the capital markets. It is also a good enough time to appreciate the compounding benefits and appreciate the rupee cost averaging benefits. But it may differ also as per the timeline of the goal. Say for retirement, it may be in the decades also, 10, 20 or 25 years. But for the emergency funds creations, it can be shorter also, say 12, 24 or 30 months. 6 stands for 6 most important words in the personal finance. The first 3 are goal-based investing and the next 3 are assets allocation strategy. I have elaborated this in one of my blog posts, which is titled as 2 most important but very simple concepts in personal finance for financial independence. Do refer it. Dear colleagues, to appreciate, to understand and to execute in our personal financial life, these 2 concepts, that is the goal-based investing and the asset allocation strategy, is compulsory if one has a desire to become financially independent someday in their life. They are so crucial. All of us do have minimum 5 personal financial goals. So our SIPs should be restricted to no more than 5 SIPs. I have listed these personal financial goals in orders of priority as per my understanding. The first is the emergency funds, second is the retirement funds, third is the kids education funds, fourth is the most important one. We need to accumulate the assets and we need to have lots of experiences in our lifetimes. So assets and experiences fund is crucial, important. And the last is kids marriage funds. In my opinion, kids marriage is a shared responsibility, so it stands last in my priority. Whenever we start an SIP, SIP has its life also. It has 4 stages in the life. The first is the conception. That is, always set the goal before you start the SIP. Then start. That is the action. Then stay focused. Whatever may be the fluctuations in the capital markets, it may go up or it may go down. But you stay focused on your SIP and the associated goal with the SIP and stop only at success. When the goal deadline is reached, either in the form of the timeline or in the form of the goal corpus size, then only stop. These are the 4 stages of SIP life. There are 3 golden rules in the SIP management. I have studied SIP in detail for the presentation. Dear colleagues, there are a number of varieties and flavors, say perpetual SIP, daily SIP, quarterly SIP, fortnightly SIP, SIP with insurance, multi-SIP, flexi-SIP. But dear colleagues, what is required is simple monthly regular SIP. All the other varieties and the flavors are marketing gimmicks. Similarly, there are a number of studies to decide which date is the most beneficial in SIP management. But here also the studies have proved that any date is a good date. So let it be remain close to your salary or to your income flow. The more convenient to you it is, better it is. The most important golden rule in the SIP management is always step up your SIP yearly on yearly at a rate of 6 to 10%, which should correspond to at least the inflation. This is the most crucial for the success of the strategic SIP. 2 stands for 2 reasons. When we pursue a particular financial goal and in later years, when the goal corpus size becomes huge enough, it is advisable to diversify across the 2 asset management companies so as to reduce the concentration risk. Similarly, it is advised that we differentiate all our personal financial goals into 2 classes. The classes are non-negotiable goals and negotiable goals. In non-negotiable goals, when we reach the goal deadline in the form of the timeline, and at that time, the goal corpus size is not adequate enough or sufficient enough to fulfill the purpose of the personal financial goal, it's a setback, it's a failure, and there is suffering, there is no alternative. Let us understand with an example. Say if you are pursuing a retirement goal, and at the age of retirement, if the goal corpus size, that the retirement funds are not adequate enough, then there is no alternative but suffering. So it is a setback. But in negotiable goals, when we reach the goal deadline in the form of the timeline, and if the goal corpus size is not adequate enough, there is an alternative. Say if we are pursuing a foreign vacations goal, and if the goal deadline time is reached, but the goal corpus size is not adequate enough, we can think of another foreign vacation destination. So there is an alternative. There is no genuine suffering. The top 3 goals, that is the emergency funds, retirement funds, and kids education, are non-negotiable in my opinion, and the rest 2 goals, that is assets and experiences and kids marriage, are negotiable. The differentiation is required so that we can modify our approach to the realization of these particular goals. For non-negotiable goals, it is always advisable to remain conservative to moderate. But for aggressive goals, we may become for negotiable goals, we may become aggressive because there is an alternative. One stands for one SIP for one goal. It is the essence of the goal-based investing. It is basically a strategic marriage between the SIP and the goal-based investing. It helps us to continue our focus on the goal and the SIP rather than the capital markets fluctuations. 0 stands for 0% volatility assets like bank FD or the liquid funds. As we pursue a particular financial goal, when we come close to the goal deadline in the form of the timeline, it is advisable that we shift the funds from the high volatility assets to 0% volatility assets. This can be done in 2 ways. It can be done in gradually also. Say we are pursuing a particular financial goal and still we are 12 months, 18 months or 24 months away from the goal deadline in the form of the timeline, then it is advisable to shift gradually the funds to low volatility or 0 volatility assets. But say if we have already achieved the goal corpus size and goal deadline is still far away, then it is advisable that we do a lump sum or single swift movement and shift the funds from the high volatility assets to the 0% volatility assets. The logics or the reasonings behind this management is capital markets are highly volatile. There is no guarantee that they will remain steady or they may move upwards. It is equally possible that they may move downwards also. And if it so happens, there is a possibility that the goal corpus size which is accumulated may decrease, may be eroded. So it is always better to transfer the goal corpus from high volatility assets to 0% volatility assets and be safe than being sorry not to have enough sufficient funds at the time of goal realization. Dear colleagues, I share few words about the controversy that always exists. Which one is the better one, lump sum investments or SIP investments? Dear colleagues, both are the good strategies, but they are for the different types of investors and for the different logical reasons. In personal finance, it is the exposure time in the capital markets which is more important, more crucial than timing the capital markets. Lump sum investments may be an attempt to time the capital markets, while the SIP has a genuine strategy to increase our exposure time in the capital markets. So SIP is definitely a step forward for average investors. But those who are disciplined and the regular investors, doing investments regularly, monthly on monthly, for them, lump sum may be good enough. It provides them flexibility in the investments. But for the non-disciplined and the impulsive investors, SIP is the choice. Dear colleagues, to start any journey, a small first step is must. Similarly, in personal finance, in SIP management, in wealth creation, SIP is a small, simple first step. But as you become mature, lump sum is also good enough. Now I'll detail the action plan. I have identified 5 personal financial goals. So for particular personal financial goal, which category of the mutual funds or which investment is a suitable one, I'll outline and I detail them. For the emergency funds, it is the short duration debt funds or the money market funds that is a good choice. For retirement funds, it is the National Pension System or NPS is the best choice. For kids education, aggressive hybrid funds is good enough. Now for assets and experiences, this is the most important goal in our ongoing life. I have divided the investment corpus into 2 investment strategies. That is the active investment strategy and passive investment strategy. In active investment strategy, it is the fund manager who decides which shares and stocks are to be bought. And comparatively, they have a higher expense ratio. While in passive or index investing, it is the index or it is the algorithm that is copied or mirrored by the fund manager. They have more economical expense ratio. So for assets and experiences, 50% of the corpus should be invested in the flexi-cap active funds and the rest 50% should be invested in the passive index funds. In passive index funds also, there are 2 options. The first 25% should go into the Nifty 50 index fund. It provides you an exposure to the capital markets entire large cap universe. And the next 25% should be invested in the Nifty Multi-Cap 50 25 index funds. Here, there is an exposure to the entire capital market universe, that is the large cap, mid cap, and small cap, across the 500 companies. The advantage or the benefits with this multi-cap index fund is that at defined intervals, at set times, there is a redistribution of the profits that may have happened either in the large cap or mid cap or small cap in such a way that the original ratio of 50, 25, 25 is maintained. So there is an ongoing profit booking in the most tax efficient manner. Kids marriage is a negotiable goal. So 100% equity exposure in the form of the index Nifty 250 large and mid cap funds is a good enough choice in my opinion. Dear colleagues, these are my simple understandings. They are not like carvings on the stone. They are definitely subject to change as per your approach. But when you make a change, do be careful that your approach is rational and reasonable. Now I share with you an app for planning and procedural process. It is Financial Calculator by Nilesh Harde, freely available on the Google Play Store. It helps you calculate the future value of your SIP management. It helps you decide the quantum of the particular goal in your life and how much monthly SIP is required to realize that particular goal. Basically, it takes away all the personal financial mathematics related issues in personal finance or in wealth creation or in SIP management. Do download it and do get benefited. I end my presentation with few words which are significant and meaningful to me. Dear colleagues, legends don't do the different things. They do the things differently. We are anesthesia doctors. We are not average investors. So our SIP should have a different perspective. Our SIP should be SIP with strategy, that is a strategic SIP. Warren Buffett has said, what the wise does in the beginning, fools do in the end. Dear colleagues, the way in our anesthesia practice, we have pre-operative workup, pre-operative examination, and pre-operative planning to manage our cases efficiently. Similarly, in personal finance also, in journey to the wealth creation also, in SIP management also, being wise and having the strategy in the beginning is advice rather than being fools to think about it in the end. Dear colleagues, it is not what one listens or learns in the webinar, but it is what one achieves with its execution in the life is more crucial to succeed. Whatever knowledge or information is received in the webinar, if it is not acted upon, it is information and entertainment. But whatever knowledge and information is received and whatever is appealing to you, whatever is applicable to you, if it is acted upon, then this action will lead to success. I'll rapidly revise what I have said so far. 7 means 7 years of SIP duration. 6 means 6 most important words in the personal finance. Asset goal-based investing and assets allocation strategy. 5 means 5 personal financial goals. 4 means 4 stages of the life of the SIP. 3 means 3 most important golden rules in the personal finance. The most important golden rule is step up the SIP. 2 stands for differentiation between the negotiable and non-negotiable class and diversification across the 2 asset management classes. 1 means 1 SIP for 1 personal financial goal. 0 means bringing down the volatility to 0% when you reach close to the goal deadline in the form of the timeline or in the form of the corpus size. That completes the rapid revision. Dear colleagues, I thank you a lot to one and all. I repeat my blog address rkhgajjar.wordpress.com. To explore extensively, to read selectively, and develop the understandings in personal finance or financial mathematics is my passion. To write about these understandings on my blog and share with the others is my personal pleasure. My dream is that may all anesthesia specialists be financially independent at least before they retire. And all those anesthesia specialists who are already financially independent may remain so throughout their lifetimes. I end my presentations with my sincerest prayers to Lord Swaminarayan that He, the Almighty, may help you all in your journey to financial independence. Dear colleagues, strategic SIP is simple and successful. It is nothing else but, in other words, Sapne in progress or dreams marching to reality. Thank you once again to all of you. I am highly obliged. Thank you. That completes my presentation.